It takes somebody to be uncomfortable being vulnerable to help others. And that's what it's came down to for me. I couldn't tell you how many times I've been made fun of, been bullied and harassed in the last 2 years from family members, friends, doctors, the whole nine yards for going against the grain. To get onto that subject with chemo and the pushback, that's a very interesting subject. And it gets to the point where police got involved. At the cancer center, mind you.
Anthony, how did you find carnivore?
Well, Dave, to get into the story and make it fairly interesting, my name is Anthony Hayduck. I'm a 32-year-old male. I have a diagnosis called stage 4 GIST cancer. GIST stands for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. Um, to get into the story to where I'm at now, early 2022, I really started complaining to the doctors about not feeling well. Um, Flash forward to middle of 2022, I finally got some imaging done, and turns out I had a softball-sized tumor inside my stomach. So they flayed me open in July of 2022. I lost about a quarter to a third of my stomach and intestines, plus, the tumor that was about softball size. And at the same time, the surgeon in Seattle, Washington, pulled a biopsy off my liver. And at the time, I still told I was cancer free. It was a benign tumor. They didn't know what it was. They shipped the tumors out of state, came back. Oh, goodness. Flash forward to September of 2022, my 31st birthday. I had an appointment at the local cancer center, and I was classified as stage 4 GIST cancer, and I had about 6 months to live, being how my cancer was untreated for so long. So how I got on the carnivore was through my cancer journey. Chemo was a fail. Um, I took a pill called sunitinib as a chemo pill. I took it for 130 days straight. I believe I sent you some email pictures of what it did to me before and after. And through chemo, like I said, it failed. It made my cancer spread, or it didn't help my cancer any. I can't say chemo actually made it worse, but it didn't help me any. So I ended up quitting chemo against all my doctor's wishes on January 31st, 2023. Started a gym membership at the local Anytime Fitness February 27th, 2023, and started applying myself to learn about the human body and diets and how the body works. Um, I've been plant-based, been vegan, of course, standard American diet for most of my life. Um, I did keto for 3 months. Like everything I did was 3 months intervals between my cancer scans to see how food would adapt to my body. And every food group I was in for those 3 months between scans, everything continued to feed my cancer until I went keto. Keto slowed it down dramatically. Never stopped it, but it slowed it down. So I started understanding, well, what's the common factor? Less carbs and less sugar in keto versus other diets. So my last resort was carnivore because I'm 32, my age bracket. Everybody's told me red meat causes cancer. I don't want to make my cancer worse. So that was the last diet I tried. So with my carnivore-based diet of being strict carnivore, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs from September 1st till middle of December when I did my scan, I actually had slight shrinkage of some tumors. One tumor, don't hold me to it as far as numbers, but one tumor shrunk like 0.4, 0.5 centimeters. Another one shrunk roughly the same, and one stayed stable. And all of my oncology team told me that at that point, imaging isn't proper. And so with imaging, it could not be 100% accurate. So I'm at least stable, but they didn't have in their heart that I had tumor shrinking. So I told them, well, we'll run it for another 3 months and see what happens. Because, of course, all of my Western medicine team aren't happy with me because I'm going against everything they want me to do. And so flash forward to about a month ago, I had another scan, and this is after being 8 months strict carnivore. I'm also on some certain supplements. We'll get to that. I'm also on one experimental drug, which we'll get to that. But on my last scan last month, I had a tumor shrink 40%. And I have never even had anybody who's been on treatment have a tumor shrink that much in a short amount of time. I actually have two different cancer doctors. One's in Portland, one's local, and both are confused with my success on how well I'm doing. I've never felt so good in my life. It makes no sense. Um, I'm putting on muscle in the gym. I'm burning off body fat at the same time, being carnivore based, and so that goes against everything that's been taught. You can't build muscle and burn fat at the same time, which I'm doing. And I've never been much for cardio as far as like running. I ran my first 2.7 miles ever in my life nonstop about a month ago, nonstop. Just went for it because I felt like it. It's amazing on how well my body feels feeding it properly because it's absorbing the nutrients. I wish I would have found carnivore a long time ago. But in order to have success, you have to fail, so you have to find the fail points to figure out what makes it better. And the cool part about, to go on to the subject of carnivore being based and also being a cancer patient plus trying to bodybuild at the same time in the gym. Now, I'm a triple-edged sword right now, in my opinion. I'm going down three different avenues, and I I've already made gym member of the month one time in the last year, which is cool as a beginner. Um, I have gone from benching 110 pounds to 225 pounds in a year's time, just by being consistent. Gym 6 days a week, 2 hours a day usually, and it's been like this since day one, mind you. Um, to flash back to how I actually got on the carnivore, though, is one of my local buddies sent me a link of that Jeff D. Prosperous guy, Blessings on My Journey. And I watched his video about his success with treatment and carnivore. And I'm like, well, if he's having success with treatment and carnivore, I'll at least try carnivore because treatment was a fail for me. So that's what actually got me hooked. I was like, well, if there's another guy with cancer doing it, why can't I? And it takes somebody to be uncomfortable being vulnerable to help others, and that's what it's came down to for me. I couldn't tell you how many times I've been made fun of, been bullied and harassed in the last 2 years from family members, friends, doctors, the whole nine yards, for going against the grain. But I'm alive and I'm thriving. I'm doing better than a person who's not sick. And the crazy part about it, as a stage 4 cancer patient who's supposed to be dead, minus the cancer, my blood works better than probably 95% of America right now. It makes no sense to me, but I'm loving it.
So, you know, it sounds like the doctors are kind of confused, but is anyone acknowledging, okay, well, maybe your diet has something to do with this?
So my to answer that question about if any actual true doctors are thinking about that or acknowledging it, my naturopaths, I have two different naturopaths. Of course, they both agree, my lifestyle is what's curing me. Well, my lifestyle's letting my body cure me because our bodies are intelligent enough to cure us. We're But when it goes to actual the Western medicine doctors, I have yet to had any oncology doctor support me off treatment as far as thinking my lifestyle is helping me. Um, I won't name names because I don't want to throw people under the bus, but one of my oncology doctors had the cojones or the audacity, however you want to word it, to tell me that my cancer is smart enough to turn on and turn off when it wants to, and my lifestyle has nothing to do with my cancer progression or deprogression. And I have just looked at him directly in the face and laughed, and I walked out of his office. That was the last time I've seen him. um, I have gone through 9 oncology doctors in 2 years. because I've outsmarted 8 of them. Um, and speaking of oncology, no, this is not to be rude or talk down upon anybody, but going through oncology and chemo and all that, of course, with chemo, it's whatever's tougher survives, whatever's weaker dies. In my case, my body was weaker than my cancer was, so my body was shutting down around my cancer. So my 130 days of chemo killed all my hair follicles. I think I sent you a picture. I look like Santa Claus as far as white. My skin was pigmented. My eye colors, disappeared. I was dying. During chemo times, I was having heart problems constantly. I deal with AFib. Um, I also had 3 different ureteral stent surgeries last year alone due to chemo causing kidney problems. So if you want to actually get into the subject of the ureteral stent surgeries, I had a stent from my kidney to my manhood 3 different times, and for 10 months I had the stents in, or 10 month period, 3 different stents. And for those 10 months, I urinated blood daily every time I went to the bathroom almost. Sometimes it was barely visible, sometimes it was red as your shirt. But this was daily for 10 months. And the doctors told me, this is the urologist, mind you, the kidney doctor. Him and his team told me to stop playing with myself and stop having aggressive sexual intercourse, and that's what was causing me to bleed. But at that point in my life, it's been 2 years since I've had anything sexual because of the cancer, the chemo, and everything else. I can't contaminate everybody when I'm on chemo, and I got to let my body heal before I can. Because I'm a respectful human, and I don't want to be that type of guy to go spread, illnesses or chemo or whatever else. I don't want to have a three-eyed kid, because of the chemo drugs. But so chemo was brutal. If I had to do it over again, personally, I wouldn't. As far as I'm glad I did it because I got to learn the knowledge of how harmful it is. But that knowledge wasn't worth the harm to the body, in my opinion. I would have rather have took that advice from somebody else who experienced it and experienced the harm and listened to them versus having to go through the pain and misery myself. And that is why I'm so open and honest about what I've been through, because I'm trying to save somebody else that pain and agony that I've dealt with. Um, and the crazy part about it is majority of the pain and agony in my life has been caused through food choices. And flashing back now, looking through my life, the vast majority has been caused by food. My mental illnesses I've had throughout life, my depression stages, my early 20s, I had suicidal stuff. And flashing back, my early 20s, that was when my diet was the worst. I was drinking, I was out eating, like partying all the time. It's no wonder why people have mental illnesses, because our bodies aren't fed properly and our brains aren't fed properly. And more people need to realize that just because it fits in the mouth doesn't mean it's food.
That's a very good point. And, it seems like, just completely off topic, but just regarding on mental illness, it seems like food is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and people are eating worse and worse and worse. And,
Our
the
diseases are
current,
getting worse.
yeah, the current generation of kids has the most mental illness ever. It's not a good sign for the future.
To go on to that topic about mental illnesses as kids, it's the saddest part about that is we have all this information in front of us. We could Google anything, and of course, Doctor Google's not 100% right always. But we have a brain for a reason. We have should have common sense for a reason. We could go back through and look at the pictures from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, up until 2024. I mean, average, of course. And you could see the health of people declining starting in the mid 80s, or late 80s. When food started getting industrialized, people started swelling up. and all these illnesses were started coming out of the woodworks. And for my age bracket of being 32, and I was born in 91, my age bracket was the one that had the food pyramid change. And what they promote, carbs, breading, vegetables, fruits, all is number one. And I'm not saying all fruits and vegetables are bad. I'm sure there's a few good ones. But the vast majority aren't. The vast majority we can't digest properly. When I was plant-based and vegan was the worst my blood work ever was, the worst I ever felt, and the most acne I had, believe it or not. And it's because just because fiber or protein or whatever nutrients are in plants, does that mean us as humans could dissolve it and digest it properly? Maybe at one point in time, but through evolution, it makes it harder because we've evolved to have brains, guns, weapons, whatever. Plants have evolved to be more toxin because they can't just grow up and reroot to hide from us or anything else. And so it's like people need to be more open-minded, more of a sponge mentality versus a brick mentality, is how I say that. And because bricks only have a couple holes, to soak in information, while sponge is littered with holes. So like even if you and I can't agree on something, I'm going to at least listen to you and try to soak in some information, whether it's helpful to me or not. It might be helpful for somebody else, So why am I going to shut you down over your opinion and thoughts on process on stuff? And once I've applied that to my life and my cancer stuff, I'm thriving. Like I said, I've controlled my situation 100%. I've 360'd it 100%, and I don't understand how I could go to the gym and push so hard and not have pain. When I was carb based, I'd have soreness the next day. I'd even have soreness during the gym, and I don't have that anymore. Like I could go for 2 hours. I mean, my muscles get tired, but there's no pain. Um, it makes no sense to me, especially through my life. I've been kind of more of an aggressive person as far as lifestyle. I like to live on the edge. Always adrenaline. Freestyle BMX, dirt bikes as a kid. If you can't tell from the suspenders, I did logging until my cancer career started. I was a tree climber for 12 years, professionally. So it's tough living on the edge. I've had 24 broken bones, 12 surgeries, and probably 8 or 9 concussions. I should be in all kinds of pain, and I feel 90% of the time I feel like $1,000,000. It goes against everything, but it goes back to a body can't heal and perform if it's excessively inflamed. And to touch back onto our conversation earlier with food choices and today's food, um, today's grocery stores have chemicals that looks like food or ingredients that look like food. Prime example of that is on how ignorant we are as a country as a whole. Is we could look up Quaker oatmeal, for example, strawberries and cream in the United States, and there's like 16 plus ingredients. Half of them are BS ingredients. But you go to Europe, look at the same thing, Quakers and oat, strawberries and cream ingredient, oatmeal, and there's probably 6 or 7 ingredients, and they're all healthy. Why is that allowed in the United
Is
States?
that right?
Yeah, we'll check into it.
Wow.
Different countries and food versus our food. It's because other countries have realized this, and the people have as a whole have stopped buying the product, and so they don't supply the product if they don't buy it. And we need to figure out how to get that to our vast American population to start understanding ingredients.
Yeah, see, and that is the problem. It really comes down to education, because the current education is really just marketing, right?
Yeah. Sadly, that's what it comes down to. If you want to be open minded about situations and food, the whole 9 yards, is look at how America is built on. America is built on, businesses, freedom, the whole 9 yards, independence. Well, as a business owner, what's normally your number one concern? You want to make money, you want profit. Well, in corporate America, how in the hell do they make the most profit as they can? They find the cheapest ingredients that they can to supply product, and then they manipulate what they say is important for us. So we buy that product, and then throughout years' times, the population gets sick, and then we count on them to help us stay. Um, how's the word? They try to keep us to a certain point, so we rely on them. Um, and that
It's
it's kind
almost
of a
like an addiction or something.
yeah, yeah. They chemically make most foods to be addictive. So you come back to it, and going from plant-based, standard American, all these different diets I've tried to carnivore. Uh, the crazy part is, say for example, I'm carnivore. I don't eat anything besides carnivore-based stuff, but I'm human. Example, yesterday I had some ice cream for the first time in a while. I gotta live a little bit. But once I had that ice cream, it was like, oh, shouldn't I? Because now I'm craving donuts and everything else. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. If you actually research that fact, I've done cocaine once in my life, never again, and I could have a cookie and I can't stop. It's like no self control, and a lot of corporations actually design food to be addictive that way because it keeps us coming back. And I find that is super wrong. And it's kind of to go on subjects of that, it's kind of like the same thing with most of the medical system. Um, they prescribe medications to suppress symptoms versus actually fixing the root cause. Well, why would you suppress a symptom? The symptoms are there to fix the root cause, kind of like a cough. You cough to break stuff out of your lungs so you could get it out and feel better. Well, when you go to the doctor for coughing, what do they give you anti-cough medicine so you don't cough. Well, then you can't break that crap out and get better quicker. It's kind of a backward system, in my opinion, and it goes back to your statement. We're as a whole, we're uneducated as a country. Um,
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think that's a global thing. It's we're just uneducated generally, and it doesn't, as you said, for a business, it doesn't suit them to educate us, right?
no,
That's
no.
the worst thing that could happen.
And that's the sad part is I'm all for businesses. I'm all for people making money, but do it the right way. Make a good product, make a healthy product, and if it's healthy and good, people are going to buy it. And if it's addictive, people are going to buy it because, of course, people have addiction problems. um, but it takes people like us that are open-minded, that experience all these things, to talk amongst everybody else, to hopefully open up somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
Kind of like the saying goes, you could lead a horse to water, can't force it to drink. I've put out all these different pathways on my personal Facebook page of everything I've tried since day one. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've been told I'm a miracle. I'm like, I'm not a miracle. I've just applied myself. If I was a miracle, chemo would have worked. If I was a miracle, I would have never got cancer in the first place.
So just on that, how you said that you had to fight your family a little bit at the start, or they were against what you were doing. But how does your family feel about this now that you've one tumor has shrunk 40%?
So now that I'm having good success with shrinking tumors off treatment or off Western medicine treatment, I'm having to support through all my family again and my community. There's been nobody, really trying to bring me down far as, hey, get back on treatment. Everybody wants me to continue this path now that I'm winning. It's just sad that it took me to have success to get them to have the support. Um, but I also understand, like, if you want to actually go back to the beginning of my first day of getting cancer diagnosis, um, walking into the cancer center that day, like my first thought in my brain is like, why am I even here? I've been to 3 different cancer centers already. I was told I was cancer free because biopsies, the whole 9 yards. And so I was Why am I here? I don't have cancer. I've been told 3 different times. So I walk into the cancer center my 31st birthday, and when that doctor sat me down and sat my mom down and said, "Hey, Mr. Hayduck, you got 6 months max, in my opinion, because we missed your cancer 7 years ago." Through imaging, we found out I had the tumor when I was 26, and it was the size of a pea. So in 7 years, I went from pea size to softball size. But my instant thought was, I'm going to die. I need to get on treatment because I lost my father in 2019 from cancer. Different type, thankfully. He had throat cancer, which spread to bone, and he went too late. But my first thought was, I'm going to die and I need to get on treatment instantly. And so I believed the doctor. I hopped on treatment. I did everything I was told because I was scared. I had peer pressure. But I will also state my very first day from getting told I had cancer is I had my mental breakdown moment. You know, I cried, my mom cried, the doctor was there for sympathy, the whole 9 yards. But by the time I left that doctor's office, I already told that doctor, pardon me for cussing, you could blurt it out, but I told that doctor, I'm going to make cancer my, I'm going to live my life for me, and cancer could ride with me or it could fall behind, but it's not going to control me. And I had that attitude by the time I left that office that first day. And here I am. It all starts in the brain. You have to be positive. It doesn't matter if you have cancer or a bad relationship or a bad job. It doesn't matter the aspect of life. Everything starts in the brain with positivity or negativity. And positivity is contagious. Negativity is contagious. So which would you rather spread? Personally, positivity goes further and is more helpful. So I'd rather spread that even if I was dying. You know, I'm going to be as positive as I can on my way out. And what I've learned through all of my research in the last 2 years is that's actually true. Our brains control our thoughts, which our thoughts control our actions. I wish I could find the link. You may or may not be able to find it, but there's a Japanese scientist guy who studied water and he froze a bunch of vials of water. Half he froze, he talked positive to. The other half he froze, he talked negative to. And when he pulled those frozen vials of water out, the half he talked positive to made beautiful shapes. And the half he talked negative to made ugly shapes. Where our mind's the same way. You know, so a lot of people, when they get an illness, they're like, oh, I'm going to die. I'm over, you know, and they just instantly give up and dwell on it. And that is the worst thing you could do in any aspect. You just take that illness, keep that in the back pocket, and just run with it. You know, you got to have to apply yourself. And then the second most important thing besides positiveness, you know, your mentalness is how you feed your belly. It's kind of like gasoline vehicles versus diesel. You put gas in a diesel truck, it's not going to run, and you're going to melt the motor down. You put diesel in a gas car, it's going to run like crap. Our bodies are the same way. You know, our bodies are driven by nutrients, not calories. Calories is a fuel source, but depending on what that calorie is, depends on how it burns, in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is, I mean, because being carnivore based, you don't have to count calories or macros. You just eat till you're full, satiated, and then you stop. And when you're hungry again, you eat again. So I don't count calories. I count by pounds of food because I eat 4 pounds of food a day. It's insane. In 3 meals, I put down 4 pounds. I'm anywhere from 8 to 12 eggs a day and about 3 pounds of meat a day. It's insane. Um, but I also go to the gym every day, so I have to sustain the fuel. You know, as I can't keep my size. Um, but it just goes against everything I've ever been taught, though. Like I am thriving. I feel good. I want everybody else to feel how I feel. And of course, it wasn't overnight. I mean, when they flayed me open in 2022 for my surgery, I couldn't even get out of the hospital bed. I had to learn how to walk all over again because my left leg didn't work because they cut through my nervous system. I got a scar about that long across my back. Well, you seen in the emails. Um, so every time I move my left leg, I feel it in my gut.
So, um, just going back to the chemo, What was it like mentally for you coming to the conclusion that you wanted to start chemo you wanted to stop chemo, and also having to deal with the amount of pushback that you got at that time? That must have been intense.
So, to get onto that subject with chemo and the pushback, that's a very interesting subject. And it gets to the point where police got involved. At the cancer center, mind you. We'll get to that. So, with chemo, my very first time ever taking the pill, little 37.5 milligram capsules, my very first day taking the pill, I could feel it dissolve through my body within about 10 minutes. Um, I felt things I never felt before, like felt like little jitters. Um, I can't even describe the way it made me feel. I could just feel things, dissolving through. And it went quick. Like from the day I started chemo till the 130-day mark, you could progressively see in pictures, I'm just declining quick. It got so bad under chemo times, I even stopped driving and stopped bathing myself. My parents had to bathe me for me, and drive me around because I got just that weak and just couldn't even think. Anger issues, depression, the whole 9 yards. And then, so when the time come for my scan to find out if chemo helped or not, and it didn't, um, at that time, this was my now second oncology doctor. I already had gone through one. Um, so my second oncology doctor, I won't name his name. I don't want people throwing people under the bus, but my second oncology doctor and I agreed to pull me off of chemo. He was all for it. He's like, "Hey, it didn't work. I understand you don't want to be on it because it didn't work. I'm not going to make you or have you suffer worse. If it's your choice to go natural, we'll let you be natural." Well, long story short, he no longer works at my local cancer center for whatever reason. So I got a doctor number three. Um, so oncology number three came in and he calls me up, says I need to get a special meeting. He wants to see me. And this is about a month after I quit chemo. And so February, March of early 23. And this oncology number three, I won't name his name. He had the audacity to tell me during my appointment with him in front of my mom that Mr. Hayduck, if you die, it's your own fault for being off chemo. And that instantly pissed me off. I'm hot-headed. I'm a logger. So I rebutted, said some things I shouldn't have said. I'm not going to repeat it. And he rebutted back, which I thought was kind of unprofessional of a doctor to stoop to my level, so to speak. So it got to the point I actually grabbed him by his shirt and threw him up against the wall, and I said, "One word out of you, I'm going to beat your ass. I'm not going to take this from anybody. I didn't ask for this. You ain't going to blame this on me." I said I went through a lot. Long story short, cops came. I was asked nicely to leave. I'm still allowed to the cancer center, but he no longer works there because he overstepped his boundaries. And they had proof of that. So it just goes to show you, even though a person has a label doctor, does that mean they're better than you or I? No, they're still a human. So don't belittle somebody else because you have a bigger label, so to speak. So oncology doctor three only lasted like a 30-minute appointment. It wasn't good, but it made me feel bad because imagine if it was somebody else in my shoes that doctor was doing to, who didn't have the backbone or the heart that I do or the thick skin. They would have just took that abuse and hopped back on treatment, possibly, and more likely could have died from it, which I was dying from it. So even still to this day, Doctor 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, now number 9 that I'm on for oncology, they've all, had some type of rebuttal why I shouldn't be on treatment, but they've all seen, success of me shrinking and slowing the growth rate, the whole 9 yards. But now they just tell me I'm a miracle. But what's funny though is yesterday I seen an ear, nose, and throat doctor just for breathing stuff, and I also seen a heart doctor because, mind you, I haven't had a seizure or AFib or anything heart related since I've been carnivore based. So that tells me that seizures and AFib problems are caused by food of a nutritional deficiency or a nutritional overload of some type. So the heart doctor that I seen yesterday and the ear, nose, and throat doctor, which was blew me away, they agreed with me that lifestyle could change your body and how your body produces things or not produces things. They won't say fix, but they'll say produce. Doctors use funny words, but I understand they don't want to lose their license. And that's the sad part is I love all doctors. It's the people above the doctors that make the rules is what I don't like. You know, doctors actually get into the jobs to help people, but they're muppets to who's in charge, and that's where the system's wrong. Um, in a perfect world, in my beliefs, for healthcare, doctors and naturopathics need to be combined. And that would be how we make America great again. That's how we'd fix obesity, fix all these cancerous problems and diabetes. I'm not sure if anybody, you or anybody else, follows or watches Dr. Anthony Shafee or Dr. Sean Baker. Smart guys. You know, Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes, cancer is type 5 diabetes. It's like, I got type 5 diabetes, man, and I'm thriving. Uh, but it makes sense. In my opinion, the vast majority, if not all, illnesses and diseases are caused from excessive inflammation, which and then causes, you know, the illness or disease. And through my research in the last 2 years of, like, I spend a couple hours a day diving down the rabbit holes, and you know, for example, in my case, my oncology team in Portland, which he's the specialist in my type of cancer, like he literally only deals with just cancer. He actually came up with multiple different names of my type of cancer mutations and a lot of these different cures for my cancer. Um, so he told me through blood work, mind you, it was like $40,000 worth of blood work my insurance spent on me. Um, my insurance has spent 2 million on me in 2 years, and I've spent about 20,000 out of pocket, and I'm curing myself. um, so it's quite the difference on, you know, what insurance does versus what a person can do naturally. Back to Monopoly, but the wild thing is it all comes back to how you apply yourself. Uh, I wish more people could learn how to be open-minded and not just instantly depend on, hey, Dave said this, I'm gonna do what Dave said, or hey, Anthony did this, I'm gonna do what Anthony said. And it's like, take what that person suggested and apply it, but also use your own common sense and be your own person to figure out if it works for you or not works for you. Because nobody knows how you feel versus you. Nobody knows how I feel versus me because nobody could wear somebody else's body. And that's what a lot of doctors are. You know, they just, you tell them what's going on and they use a T chart, quote unquote, to figure out what the next move is going to be, which you have that right and power, and I have that right and power. It's just they have more technology behind it.
Yeah. Wow. So, one of these tumors is shrunk by 40%.
Yes.
You're feeling better than you ever have before. I mean, how what's your feeling about the future at this point?
So, my I'm doing well enough with my cancer diagnosis that I don't need to be seen till October now, so 6 months out. So this is my first time in my cancer career that I'm going from 3 month intervals to 6 month intervals because of my success I'm having. Well, that and probably the doctors don't want to see me anymore because of my attitude. But between the attitude and the success, you know, I don't need to be seen till October, which is the first time in 2 years. I'm like, yes, less poison, you know, because every time you go in for a scan, it's more chemicals through your body. So my goal is to, with my next scan in October, is I pray daily that my cancer is either going to be gone come October completely, or all my tumors are going to be very, very, very small, like hard to see small. And once that happens, my goal is to go to work next year because I've been on disability since 2022, since surgery. Initially, it's because I was unable to work because of my physical condition. Well, life happens, time happens. I'm able to physically work now, but the ruling in my state is so screwed up. If I go to work, I owe too much money, and I can't afford to have cancer, and I can't afford to go to the doctor if I go to work. because of my co-pays and deductibles and everything else. So I'm basically stuck on disability until I get healthy enough that I could go back to work full time and not go to the doctor at all because I don't have $10,000 for deductible this year. So that's my goal, is to get back to work next year if or when my body allows me to, because I'm going to beat my cancer this year. That's the goal. And the cool part about that, to get on subjects that's fresh in my brain, um, I started seeing a naturopath probably, we'll say, August, September of this last year. So 8 or 9 months now, I've been progressively seeing this naturopathic on a regular basis. And my very first day that I seen him, he pulled blood work, and for every 7.5 milliliters of blood, I had one tumor cell in that vial of blood. I just got checked a couple days ago. We got results back, and my tumor count went to 0 per 7.5 milliliters of blood. So that matches the results of the imaging, that things are shrinking progressively. Um, so that's my goal. I'm gonna whip this by October. And if I don't whip it by October, I'm still gonna go back to work next year somehow because I can't afford to not work anymore. I've gone through my life savings and then some to figure this out.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine the way carnivore makes people feel, you're probably chomping at the bit to get back to work,
I
just energy-wise.
Energy wise, I'm through the roof. Like, I get up every day. I shouldn't say every day because I'm really strict on my routine. Like, you need 8 hours of sleep daily. You need so much water daily. Depending on your body size, you need so much food daily. So if I get to bed at 10 o'clock, I get up at 6. If I go to bed at midnight, I get up at 8. Like, there's always 8 hours of sleep no matter what. So, but I'm on the run. The moment I get up, I'm out of bed. I take a cold shower, 3 minutes of cold water daily. Um, my first meal of the day is 2 pounds of food. It takes me an hour to eat. Just a big scramble, meat, eggs, and bacon. Um, take my couple of pills. I take like turmeric for a supplement, lion's mane and turkey tail mushrooms. It's good for brain health from chemo and everything else, and memory support. My one experimental drug that I'm on through the naturopath is European mistletoe. Europe's been using it for a couple of decades now. It's a cancer treatment. FDA won't approve it for United States, but we do it anyway. It's out of pocket expense because chemo or insurance won't cover it because it's not chemotherapy. It's an experimental. So I actually pay for 8 little vials, like little vials. It's $300, and I stab myself 3 days a week in the gut with this little vial of natural poison, and no side effects. Like I said, chemo with the pills, I could feel it in about 10 minutes going through my body. With the needle, the mistletoe, all I feel is the pinprick of the needle, and that's it. Um, no pain, no swelling, no joint hurting. Like, there's no side effects from this European mistletoe. And
And what's the idea of the mistletoe? Is it targeting the cancer cells?
so with the European mistletoe, it's supposed to target the cancer, and it's also supposed to make you feel a little bit better. Like example with cold showers or exercise, you get the endorphin dump. Well, in this European mistletoe series, they have a couple of, I don't know all the properties. I wish I could figure it out, but they won't tell me everything. But there's the European mistletoe, which mistletoe is a natural poison. Mother Nature makes it. And then they also have an endorphin extract they put in there, so you feel good, of course, on it. And a couple other things they won't tell me. I'm assuming, maybe some high strength vitamin C, because most naturopathic places, do high strength vitamin C for cancer stuff. But like I said, they won't tell me all the fine print. I try, I poke the bear. They don't give me all the answers. But this European mistletoe, you could look it up on the interwebs. There's not a whole bunch of information on it for the United States, but everybody that I've talked to that's on it's had no side effects. And for any type of treatment or medication or pill or whatever you want to call it to have no side effects, that's hard to find. you know. So that in itself should speak wonders. And honestly, my very first day I was told about European mistletoe was probably shortly February, March of 23, and it took me till September to actually consider doing it. Like it took me 5, 6 months of studying it. I was like, hey, do I actually want to get on this experimental drug there's no information about? But none of the doctors in the United States will talk about it as far as Western medicine goes. So I just had to go to different cancer places and learn how to talk to different patients. Like, hey, are you on this by chance? And some are, some aren't. Thankfully, we're in a time of technology. That's why we could have this video now. So on Facebook, I got on all these cancer groups. I'm like, hey, who's on this particular medication? Some people are, some aren't, but everybody that's on it's, feeling good. And so that in itself, it's like, oh well, what am I so scared for? um, Speaking of cancer stuff and Facebook and cancer groups, is people as a whole are funny. I've been a part of 4 different cancer groups on Facebook, 2 regular cancer groups and 2 far as particular with GIST itself. And I've been kicked out of both GIST sites for going against the grain. When I was talking about my success and story, or when I was talking about my storyline and journey with treatment, when I was failing, it was okay. Me quitting treatment was okay to post, but the moment I'm having success, I've started getting bullied by the admins of these particular sites to the point where I actually got kicked off and kicked out of these cancer groups for having success off treatment because I'm going against the grain.
Because you were talking about, I'm having success, I'm doing carnivore, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was.
And they're just like, "No, no, no, you can't be saying that, especially the fact you're not selling anything to anyone. You
Yeah,
can't be saying that at all."
yeah. They really got their feelings hurt or their claws out, however you want to word it. They got really defensive once I was having success without treatment. And it goes back to what you just stated. There's no money to be made off carnivore. Um, I mean, there is. Whoever's selling the meat makes money. But far as the doctor goes, the doctor doesn't make no money off it because it's not a prescription; it's a choice. Uh, and the saddest part about it, in my case, is I have everything documented. I have everything through my chart for all the blood work, the imaging, the whole 9 yards. I have all the pictures on my phone. I have hundreds of pictures, through my journey of before chemo, during chemo, after the chemo. I've been honest since day one, and the fact that I am honest, it gets me in trouble and kicked out of stuff, is because they're threatened. If more people had my attitude or our attitude of being open minded, imagine how many doctors wouldn't make as much money as they do. They still make money, they just won't make as much, which goes back to greed. It's wild. And that's the sad part is when I was working prior to my cancer crap as a tree climber, I was making pretty good money. Like I wasn't, a millionaire, but I was making more than most, especially in my town. And I'm actually more happier now being a broke person than I was when I was making, 6 figures. But it's because I've applied myself to know the true meaning of life. A truck, a toy, all these materialistic stuff don't buy happiness. Happiness comes from within, on building confidence, building, self-esteem, working on yourself, facing your fears. I am so beyond blessed for my cancer diagnosis and going to death's door and back because I'm facing everything I've wanted to do in my life. I've never had swimming lessons in my life. I hate water. I go to the pool every Sunday. I'm learning how to swim on my own as a 32-year-old male, and that's odd because you should learn that at 3 years old or 5 years old, not 32. Um, I'm learning how to, talk to you. You're a stranger to me, minus your videos. The old me would have never done this because it's awkward, and I'm stoked. This is a learning curve. This is an opportunity. This is a way to help others. So that's what life's about. You got to help others. In order to help others, you got to be there for yourself first, and that means you got to apply yourself. Um, I wish I can't wait for the day I'm better with communicating than I am now, so I could word things in a way more people could relate to.
You're well, I've got news for you. You're very good at communicating. Um, but and actually on that point, someone for someone out there who might have a cancer diagnosis, what would your message be to them?
So, for anybody out there, whether it's a current cancer diagnosis or a brand new one or a future one, my biggest thing is if somebody gets a cancer diagnosis or any diagnosis for health for that matter, don't beat yourself up over it. Have your moment of grief, cry it out, write it out, scream it out, beat it out. Do whatever you have to do to release your emotions of the hurtness, the shock and awe. Get that out of your system. And once you get your moment or moments of relief and get it out of your system, you need to either think it or write it out, talk it out, but you need to make a plan of action. And that all starts with your brain, your mind. You need to figure out how to get yourself into a positive thought. So initially, my case, cancer. You got 6 months till you're dead, Mister Hayduck. So I took that as an opportunity. I was like, okay, what can I do to apply myself to prove the doctors wrong, to prove myself wrong that I'm going to win past 6 months? Well, I already knew my eating wasn't the greatest. I mean, drinking, eating out all the time, like seed oils are meant for trucks and machinery, not humans. So that was the first thing to go is oil based stuff. So for anybody with a illness, cancer diagnosis, is get your grief in and get over the grief. It's hard to it's easier said than done, but in order to win, you have to fail. So get your grief in, get your grief out, get your mindset straight. So even though it's hard and it's depressing getting your cancer diagnosis, you need to think this is my time to prove myself. This is my time to win this diagnosis. And I don't hold me don't hold me proper for the percentage, but say 80% of people, in my opinion, if their cancer is caught early enough before it spreads to the bones and stuff like that, like well, there's a point of no return. So if your illness is caught early enough, I believe in my heart and my soul that 80% of everybody could be healed. Um, and it all starts with the mind. Positive, be positive. Exercise. A body in motion stays in motion. Does that mean you need to go to the strength? Does that mean you need to get a gym membership and go 6, 7 days a week like me and kill yourself like me? No. But if you could walk a quarter mile one day, walk a quarter mile and 5 extra steps the next day or 2 days later, have a goal to slowly better yourself. Um, and then if you do say 4 days a week at a quarter mile a day, maybe next week try to do a half mile. It just baby steps is how you get to success and victory. Um, push yourself, but don't push yourself to the point where you can't pick yourself up, if that makes sense. And then learn discipline. Motivation is great. Motivation helps, but discipline is what makes you win. Discipline is what separates a loser from a winner. Um, and to put that into terms with just a simple things a lot of people could relate to is gym. If you're motivated for the gym, you're only going to go when you're motivated. But if you're disciplined to go to the gym, you're going to go no matter what. And then in 14 months' time or 2 years' time, like me, you're going to go from weak and fat and no muscle to jacked and ripped. I actually have a picture on my phone from chemo from carnivore. It was a 12 month between pictures, and I went from death's door to jacked, uh, all in a 12-month period, and it makes no sense. But it goes back to our statement earlier: nutrition. Gas versus diesel. Our bodies are ran on a certain nutritional aspect, and you have to heal your gut health because leaky gut syndrome is really not good for anybody. That causes inflammation. You have to heal your gut health and get your inflammation down so your body could heal. So I guess to in less words, the best thing for anybody with a fresh cancer diagnosis or an existing one is start with the mindset, become positive. It's hard, it's easier said than done, but learn how to be positive. Even if you got to twist the situation to make it positive, you got to do what you got to do. Have the goals in your heart, have the desires in your heart, feed yourself properly, and learn learn about mind power, learn about food, and learn about the body's health. And the biggest thing about the body's health is mitochondria, because a dysfunctional mitochondria is where the vast majority of illnesses and diseases come from. We could get into the subject later on. I'm sure we run out of time, but dysfunctional mitochondria is what caused my cancer. I'm a firm believer on that, um, because your dysfunctional mitochondria spreads like wildfire, and that's why cancer gets so aggressive and spreads as quick as it does, is because your cancer cells will clone themselves quicker than a good cell will through the mitochondrial phase. That's a whole subject we'll get into. I'm sure Dr. Anthony Shafee, and them could explain it better than me. But it's really important, food, mindset, and heart set. Those are and exercise. Those are the four most important things in my mind. And then, of course, there's a lot of things behind that. It's health, dating, job, all those aspects apply to it. You can't perform at your job if your diet's crap. You can't perform well if your mindset's not good. You can't be in a happy relationship if you don't feel well. It all goes back to mindset, what you feed yourself with, and how you want to apply yourself. And be open minded. Don't be afraid to fail, because that's how you have success.
Very well said. Um, so Anthony, if people want to reach out to you, is there a way they can get in contact? Do you have social media or anything?
So I do have some social media. It's my name's on the screen, Anthony Hayduck here. I have Facebook. The vast majority of my profile is open for public on Facebook. I also have TikTok, which is making cancer my bitch without the H. It won't allow me to cuss on TikTok. And I also have Instagram, which is Anthony Hayduck. But yeah, I'm open to anybody messaging me. Be patient. I can't respond to everybody at once. Like, I wake up daily and I have messages from everybody. And I respond when I can. But I'm open for get a hold of me if you have questions about anything. I'll respond when I can. Of course, everything I say is not medically proven. I'm not a doctor. I'm just living proof of what I've been through and what works and what doesn't. At least for me.
Well, Anthony, I really hope you'll come back in October and let us know how you go with the next round of tests. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it.
I, I appreciate the opportunity to get invited, and I'm sure you and I will continue talking through emails and chats, and I will gladly accept that invite in October, or November, probably, which will be right after my scan. That'll give me time to get things in a row. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see where the next conversation with you goes.